We're all set. Mike, you are live.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I'd like to call the April 5th, 2021 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Very good, thank you. I would like to declare Matt necessarily absent. Next is the March 1st minutes. Can I get a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion for the minutes.
Thank you, Donna. In a second.
I second.
Thank you, Fred. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Good. Motion carried. All right. We do have two returns applications and one new. I saw it. Jenny, right? You for a quick fill?
Yes.
Okay, so I think you know the drill, but basically, you're gonna hear the applications. If there's, you take your time. If there's new things, certainly let us know, and the board will ask some questions. But at least on yours, if I'm not mistaken, this is gonna have to go to the county planning board for comments. Did that go, Kim?
I think it did, Mike.
Yeah, it did go. Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. So, so let's start with on the agenda. The first one is going to be the Robbins pergola application. Hi, Linda. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you guys?
Good. I want to thank you for sending those pictures, and I think this is it was very helpful.
Good, good. Well, the weather cooperated at least.
Good, good. I just want to make sure that as we're going through this, that I understand what's happening here with your photographs. As I'm looking at them, there is a giant rectangle. We'll call it a giant rectangle.
Yep.
Behind the house. That's the proposed pool, right?
Yeah, if you want, I've kind of numbered all of them. And the first one is kind of a general overall schematic of the pool and the proposed pergola area. And I thought that would be a good reference point to start. I don't know if everybody there has those.
I'm looking at the Dropbox. There we go. So I think Susie's going to share the photos. Okay. So we're seeing the aerial. All right.
Okay.
So what is this one? Go back. I like the photographs, and then you have some red markings. So what are we looking at here?
So the red marking there is the pool, as the pool contractor has sent us the drawing. I went out, we measured it out, and actually it was interesting where he had already painted it before the snow. The paint was still very barely visible. So I just kind of repainted it so that you could see it. So that's as the pool contractor had laid it out to begin with.
And just as a reminder that where the pool is sitting, that's as far west as we can get the pool because of the existing leach field.
Okay.
So then you had gone to another photo. So this photo is of our house. You can see the window there in the foreground there, and you can kind of still see the black area there. I should have highlighted that. I don't think I knew how to do it at that point. So you see that there's nothing in the sight line. That's the neighboring property to the back and to the left. You could see there's like redbud trees in the back of our property. So that's just from the house looking at the pool. And there is the overall schematic of the project plan, if you will. The area there to pay attention to are those steps that are going up to that area. You'll see the grade is marked there, as I believe it's 42 inches plus or minus there.
Do a cheater back and forth.
Yes, right there. So that's 42 inches right there high. That is a natural and existing grade that when we originally spoke with the pool contractor, and we met with a couple of them, and they all had that concern that you wanted to work with what you had and maintain the grade that you have. So we need to put a retaining wall there. And I think that's where some of the question came last time, and you'll see it. Here's a picture of a temporary fence we have put up, and those flags kind of are there to give you a visual representation of the rise in that, that gradient.
So each of these flags at about 6 inches into the ground, just to give you a good view on how you can see the grade going up to the side of the property.
And again, you can see past this whole space, there's no neighbors that are gonna see this. And those are the steps.
All right, those are I was wondering what that was. First I thought it was the pergola, and that's, you're telling me where the steps are.
That would be enough for me to sit in, but not.
Got it. This makes far more sense. So those are the steps going up to the proposed pergola area, right?
Yes, and so the front edge of that there is the
Okay.
retaining wall. And there will be a surface patio there, just so you know, no, regardless of anything there, because it makes sense to put one there if you've got a wall there. And there is an overview of the whole, that it's not going to be that big either. So that's a little extreme, but that's the area that we are talking about in red.
So the area in red represents what?
That's where the pergola would be, although I got a little, it's bigger than, that. I mean, it's not as big.
Okay.
That's just a big circle to show you that's the proposed area in general.
So that the fence that we see there with the posts, what does that represent?
The fence that you actually, oh, that is a temporary fence. So that we wanted, it's just a temporary fence for our dog at this point.
Okay, all right, so that's not part of this application.
That is
Okay.
not coming part of, no.
Okay, all right, got it.
And there it is again from the back view of the house, looking directly at the house.
Okay. Great.
I don't know if we had a side one or.
That's this here. So that area, so that's how you'll see it right there. The one thing that's a little misleading in that picture, when the pool designer did it, that fence there is not going to be a solid white fence like that. It's going to be kind of like an iron look, aluminum, you know, you've seen all the standard pool type fences. That's just, that white backdrop is misleading. It's not going to be like that.
All right, there's some of those pictures that I saw, and I think I'm looking at picture number 7. At least it's been marked as 7. All right, actually, go back, that last one. Any one of those. That's so all that the brush, vegetation, I can see the slope. If I understand the county planning board's comments, is that if you could do as much as you possibly can to keep the buffering there. So
Oh, we
I know
want the
that-
buffering.
That's
We
I know
don't-
that's not all your property.
I'm sorry?
I know that's not all your property. So what you're asking is to go 5 feet to the property line.
5 feet away from the property line, yes.
Correct. So I don't know if that tree that looks like it's just off to the upper left-hand corner is yours.
That screen-
Is that
Yeah,
your
we
tree or not?
We intended for that screen to stay there. The tree is actually hanging over. The tree is probably about 5 to 7 feet onto the other property.
Okay.
And the other screening, I mean, we're trying to preserve as much of that as possible to keep a natural barrier there.
Okay, so you wouldn't be opposed then that whatever buffering or vegetation that is on your property to continue to maintain it and keep it there.
Oh, we would like to
Because-
even, yes.
Just
That's
because
all.
you're so close to the property line is not to disturb that.
we don't want to disturb any of that. We would like to preserve every last tree and seedling and anything that will grow there.
So you, if the board decides, you would be okay then with preserving as much as that vegetation as you possibly can?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add before we ask some other follow-up questions?
You should have, I don't know if you did, but you should have, by this point, received notice from at least 3 neighbors, Ed Lecision, Barry Buffin, and John Sobrowski, all of whom are our closest neighbors that we know, that we know who they are and whatever, that they had no problem with it whatsoever. So I don't know if you did, but you should have received that.
I'm not sure if we got one from Barry, but we definitely have the other 2.
Okay, he may have communicated that to me in an email when I was just kind of doing a sounding board, just making sure everybody would be fine way earlier in the process. But he said he had no problem with it, and Ed, and then John as well.
Okay, great. Let's ask some questions. Donna, you have any questions?
I don't. They did their homework well.
Good. Sarah, questions?
No, I think the pictures helped, and I think with the fence being there, that helps with the buffer as well. I'm fine with the application the way it's presented.
Good. Fred, questions?
Yeah, there's a 3D drawing. It's been on the screen. Doesn't seem to agree with the line drawing. Can that 3D drawing come up? I don't see a number on it, but it's the only one that's it's got the discussion about that fence not being correct was on it.
Oh, is it the one you just saw splash up?
Well, as long as this one's on, there's looks like a roof overhang where the 5 feet to the line is. Does that dimension line point to the foundation, and then there's a line outside of that? What does that represent? Looks like it's part of the building. If it is, then it's a 4-foot setback, not a 5.
Oh, I see where you're pointing to.
Whatever
I
that
can't
is.
see. Can you move this so
Hold
I
on a
can
second.
see it? We need to be able to see it. Hang on. Oh, there we go.
What's that 5 feet point to it? There's another line outside of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that line is there. It's not intended to be,
We are intending this to be 5 feet from the lot line,
including
any overhang.
Any overhang.
And I can't tell from this because we didn't do it.
Well, the other drawing shows as I look at it, pergola is right up against the start of the steps, and that it's moved over.
I don't see what
It
you're
would
saying.
make 10 feet then or so from the lot line, and I would much prefer to see that. Can we
I'm not sure I understand.
I
bring
think
that
when-
drawing?
There's
drawing up?
where the steps are at the top of that diagram, and then you see that the 4 for 40.
Yes?
Right. Where does the pergola start? I think as Fred was trying to
It's
ask.
going to be
I think the pergola starts at the top of the steps.
at the
If you
top
look
of
at
the
other-
steps. If you look at that other picture that shows the actual pool,
I think the 3D one is more accurate.
that is more accurate in terms of,
Can whoever's doing it bring that up?
here you
There
go.
it is. Now, if you notice, the steps are recessed into the pergola, which makes me think the pergola is brought up to the deck by the hot tub.
No. The pergola is not, look at that other picture because there's a space between, see that hot
Yeah,
tub?
I saw that, but that space is not in this other drawing.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
9 feet.
7, there, between the edge of the spa, right there, it says 7.9 feet to the edge of the wall, the retaining wall. Am I missing something?
No, this drawing doesn't seem to agree with the other one.
I think you're seeing a shadow or something on that other one, because when I'm looking at it,
We don't have that one.
Well,
right
the
here, that
look.
right there, that wall is, see the shadow? There's some shadowing there. There is,
Well, I see that, but the steps are recessed into the pergola itself.
you mean into the retaining wall?
There's no space between the steps and the pergola in this drawing. It makes me think it's closer to the pool, which I think is a good idea because that
I think the
outer
3D isn't top.
I think the 3D
I think
is
that-
throwing it
that's-
off.
is pretty close. And the discussion about the vegetation, was that on the other side of the property line?
Some of that vegetation is on our property and some of it is on the neighboring property. And we would not want to disturb any of it. I mean, it would be our choice that it's all left as a buffer. If we could have a thicker buffer around the place, that we would like it. Well, I guess what I'm having trouble with is with your comment about the pergola though, is,
He's showing this. This is
Okay.
From the top of the steps, there's no gap.
There's no space here.
You're already several
oh,
feet.
it's the way you drew it. I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
So if you look to those steps on the schematic, on not the 3D, I see what you're saying. So if you look at this here, right, I can't point to it. Move your cursor directly down. Right there. That's the pergola area. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm not sure why he drew it
He-
over that way.
He
That's
did not draw it correctly.
Well, that's going to increase the 5-foot side offset then, which is good.
Yeah, he did not draw this, like, I can see what he's saying now.
I mean, I'm a little confused because they don't agree with each other.
Yeah, he didn't, yeah, this isn't portraying it exactly because it is 5 feet from the line.
From the lot line. That's where we have the flags. so.
Right, so I see what Fred is saying now. Your pergola is 12, well, at least I know it's 12 by 24, but that
12 by
diagram shows
24.
12 by 28.
I'm sorry, the concrete pad is 28, but the pergola will be 12 by 24.
Okay, but the width is 12 feet right there.
Exactly.
So if the pergola starts where those steps are,
That's where it's going to start. That
That's
is our-
about,
well,
that's shifted down about 5
12
feet.
feet should start right where the cursor is now.
That's
Yes.
right.
And
That's shift-
if that's the case, then you don't need to be, I don't know what the measurement is, but I think what Fred's driving at here is that's 4 to 5 feet closer to those steps. So,
I scaled it as 5 feet. Between the top step and the start of the pergola is about 5 feet. And I think the pergola could move over to the steps and then the side set.
And I'm thinking that the
Double.
way that's drawn, I don't think that space
Wish
is
I
not
understood.
there.
I
in
don't
real
think that
life.
space is there.
Well, there's
I
this
know
drawing.
that space is not there.
I mean,
This
we've
drawing
measured
is
out.
wrong. There's something the matter with this drawing then.
all right. So I guess I don't mean to throw water on your excitement and the fire here because it looks like it's a good project. But and I think Fred's right here, is that the problem that we have is, or zoning board, when it's granted, we use the diagrams and exhibits that are submitted. And if we then say we grant it as per the diagrams and exhibits, and specifically the drawings, these drawings, somebody looking back on it, it's going to be confusing on where does the pergola start and where does it stop? So you can tell me, and I believe you, that the drawing is off, that it's not accurate. So I think the solution needs to be is you got to go back to your, was he an architect, designer, somebody say, you got to fix this. You got to make it clear where the pergola starts so that if you really need the 5 feet, okay, but it's confusing because there's that drawing doesn't add up to what you need and what you're asking for.
Can we do this? The project is hopefully supposed to start and we really don't want to delay it. But can we do that you grant it based on the drawing being updated and submitted to you? Meaning if the contractor doesn't match what you're asking for, then it wouldn't be granted. But if he comes back and submits to you the drawing for the way that we're expecting it to be to our specifications, then it would be granted. Does that make sense?
Then it would be a 10-foot side setback. Not a 5.
No,
Right, because what's your, I'm trying to work this through, what you're asking for and what that drawing shows are two different things.
Hey, Mike,
And I think it's going to give Al a bit of a hard time. It's like, well, how does he know when he comes out to look at the project? He doesn't know where it starts and stops. So Al.
So
you wanna
what,
say
I guess
something?
I'm going to ask, what do you need in order to grant this variance? What do you need for me to go back and have, I'm struggling with the words.
We need the target not to move.
Exactly.
Mike,
Yeah, Al, go ahead.
I'm looking at an instrument survey that's in the packet. Well, it's not completely dimensioned. It shows the patio area between the pool and the retaining wall. And it shows the steps extending beyond the retaining wall. Then there's an open space before, then it shows the 12 by 24 pergola with a 5-foot setback beyond that.
Mm-hmm. So it would have to match this is what you're saying. And that's what has to be built to this.
No, that would be working on the wrong drawing. The
Okay.
pergola should move over to the top of the step.
The way that I see that, and I think I'm looking at the same drawing Al is,
Yeah, I think so too.
there's the proposed pergola. And then I think I see where the steps are. But there's a distance between where those proposed steps are and the pergola. They're not
Got it.
connecting to each other. So I don't know if we can solve that by, where is that pergola going to be in proximity to the steps and the house and the pool and everything else? And I think it's a matter of 5 feet to 10 feet, but it is, we're required to, if we do grant variances, to do it as minimally as possible. When did you want to start digging?
They want to start digging early May. And we have a conflict with the next, when is the next ZBA meeting? I think we had a conflict with that. We're going to be out of town.
Are we going on 2 weeks this month? 2 week schedule?
No, I think
Yeah,
Kim,
April 19th is the next meeting.
April 19th is the next meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the conflict with the 19th?
I'm sorry. He's out of town and I'm out of town. I could possibly do it, but I know you can't.
I think we're still going to be Zooming.
No, I know. He's going to be out in California, California time.
Well, no, I'm not gonna have nothing.
You won't have any
I don't
problem.
have cell service where I'm going.
Well, if you can correct
So,
the
but,
drawing, you wouldn't have to be here. We could carry on.
so the question is then, so the diagram that we were just looking at, if it would show the space as it really is, because I think that the space that you're referring to, Fred, doesn't exist in this diagram.
Well, then the distance to this pergola to the side yard would become more like 10 feet.
I think
Yeah.
that's based on,
So he's saying, yes, this would move. We
No,
are
no,
actually
this is
farther from the
still-
property line.
this is still 5 feet from the property line. This space here doesn't exist is what's wrong. Because the other, just quickly, I mean, you could tell by looking at even one of the photographs, where we had one of the photographs from above looking down at the step area.
With the big red circle.
You could even see that there's no way that that's 20 feet to the property line.
Can I say something? I thought you said when you put the retaining wall up beside the steps, you were going to bring that out even. Is that space there the even spot that you're going to be putting the cement?
The patio and pergola area, if I understand your question, would be brought even to the steps. So there isn't that space in between that's being reflected on the diagram.
Because it's drawn with the pergola too narrow.
I think he has it set back too far.
In
The
the picture.
pergola is,
He has it set back too
It's
far.
5 feet from the property line, but I think, but the way he's showing the picture and diagram, there's not that space there that you were referring to, Fred, in the middle.
the problem is not the pergola, is the pergola smaller than the flooring? I'm not gonna
Yes.
say the right word.
Not depth wise, it's 12 feet. 12
Okay.
feet deep. The pad is 12 feet deep, but the concrete pad extends 28
width.
feet, or sorry, the length. And the pergola is 24. So only the length of it, if that makes sense, not the depth.
Yeah, okay, so I was thinking that was the retaining wall in was because you said the hill, you didn't want to disturb it, but you were going to bring the flooring of the pergola out that far, but maybe that's not what I was understanding. Okay. Yeah, I think we need a new drawing.
Need a new
I
drawing.
I understand what you're saying as far as, well, the markings on the grass reflect of what your intent is. But once you build all this, the markings on the grass will no longer be there.
I
This
get it.
drawing is going to exist.
I
So
get it.
again, to create a solid record and
Yeah,
not to create further problems for our code enforcement officers to figure out, well, what exactly did the zoning board grant or deny, but let's presume that it's going to be granted. All these pieces have to line up logically.
I
and
get it.
any, whether it's be tomorrow or 10 years, they could say, nope, there's the plan, that they did exactly what they said they were going to do, and what the zoning board said it was okay to do. It's just dotting your i's and crossing t's.
I get it. I understand that. You need to
Makes
have it memorialized. I am going to, as soon as we're done here, call the pool contractor to see if he can get that. Can he submit that directly to you once we tell him the discrepancy? Sorry. And let me just ask before we go to do all that, are there any other questions or concerns that we should have him address that anybody?
Sarah's got a
I
question.
I've had a question, and Mike, I think this probably is directed towards you. I guess I'm confused because the application is for an area variance to where they're requesting a 5-foot setback from their property line. Why are we, I understand that plans change and we want everything to look exactly how it's going to be in their backyard, but the application is for a side setback. What if they move the steps to the other side, but yet everything stays the same? Aren't we only looking at the setback at this point?
We are, but if they don't need 10 feet,
But aren't, I feel bad for the applicant to where they would have to come back yet another time to this meeting when they're asking for 5-foot setback. If we are all in agreement that that we're okay with this being no less than, or no closer to the side property line of 5 feet, then why wouldn't we be able to move forward with the application instead of carrying it over yet another week or another 2 weeks? I'm really just looking out for the applicant at this
I
point.
don't-
I mean,
I
Thank you.
understand what you're saying, but as we can't micromanage an application and
but
bend it
aren't
and
we
mold
kind
it.
of doing that though, by saying that, I mean, this diagram that we have with the instrument survey that Al referred to, I mean, that lays out exactly what they would like to do with a 5-foot setback from the side property line. Isn't that what we're here for, to decide on that setback, not necessarily the layout over the pool and the hot tub and the steps go?
Well, my reason for bringing it up was that maybe they don't need a 5-foot, maybe they can have a 10-foot setback.
Their proposal was a 12 by 24 pergola and gave us a list of reasons why it had to be within 5 feet of the side setback, as opposed to which requires 15. The leach field, and we'll get to the reasons. But as their contractor, the diagram, it could be by an error, makes it look like that the pergola, the same size of what they asked for, they don't need it to be within 5 feet of the
That's
side
right.
setback. It could be 10. And we're required, if we do grant a variance, to do it minimally, not just to say, well, it's the needs and wants. All right, I think I don't think they're meaning to do that, but sometimes the theory is like, well, it's my property, I can do whatever I want with it, so I should be able to build all the way to the lot lines. Well, the code says you can't do that.
Well, we really are not.
I
just
know that.
here.
I'm
We
just-
really, we understand what your role is and why you have it and the precedent, all of that. And we're not asking to go clear to the lot line. Now, one thing just to note is in that area, there's going to be a patio. And we could take that surface patio, if it's concrete, all the way from 1 inch to the lot line. And then just erect something temporary. You know, that is not our wish. We did look at it, but if we wanted, we could take the concrete and take it all the way back from 1 inch to the lot line. We're really not wanting to do that, and we really don't want to do something temporary. But we really, we're trying to operate within the guidelines.
And what I don't want to start creating is, I like to think we take this seriously, that for each and every application, we follow procedures, we follow the rules. We don't bend the rules just because it's close enough. So these are the things that I think it's important, not only for this board, but for the town and every other applicant that comes after Linda, that they know, all right, when the application comes in, we put the criteria to it. If it fits, it's granted. If it's not, then it's denied. And in this instance, potentially, and I don't think it could happen, but it might, you have a situation where somebody challenges this application and says, wait a minute, the drawing doesn't add up. It doesn't add up to what they're asking for and what the drawing shows. I don't think it's a huge ask to ask that designer to say, make that drawing right. So when this is on file, anybody that looks at it afterwards is going to be able to tell this fits. It makes sense. Everything adds up.
So are there any, assuming we get this corrected and it represents what we are representing
Intending.
here, that we need the 10-foot variance or 5 foot from the lot line. Are there any other issues or questions that the board's going to raise at the next?
I don't
meeting?
see it. I think just that drawing needs to be cleaned up so it's consistent to what you're asking for.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't, and I don't, Fred, do you have any other questions? If that drawing gets cleaned up, that
I'd like to see that line that's outboard of the 5-foot arrow defined or removed.
Say that again, please.
okay, on the flat drawing,
Mhm.
where it points to 5 feet from the side lot line,
Got it.
there's another line closer to the lot line than the 5 feet.
This one.
And
Fred,
that either ought to
Is
get
that the
dimension.
edge, sorry to talk
Oh.
over you. Is that
Get out
the
of
edge
here.
of the retaining wall or is that the pergola?
I don't think there's a wall there.
no, but it is bigger than the pergola. The base of the pergola, the decking or whatever they're calling it, patio, is bigger than the pergola. So that's probably what that line is. 'Cause
So
like
I just
you
want to be
said-
sure that I'm clear. Right where it is the 12-foot line going across that space, and right below it, you have a 5-foot line. They're both pointing to that inner one, and you're wanting to know what is this exterior line, one right next to it. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
If-
I will
if-
either have
if-
it removed or I'll have it labeled.
If it's true, then the dimension line should be to that, not the inner one.
Okay,
If it's not there, then take it out.
okay. All right. So we will see you back on the 19th.
Yeah,
Thank you. We do appreciate it. And I would just respectfully ask that if, as you're thinking about it between now and then, if there are any questions, so that we aren't met again with questions and have to go back, that you could just give me a call or
Right.
email. me.
I understand that the problem is we would be violating open meetings law.
Okay,
All
okay.
right,
Well, and I
so
think-
if there are any questions that the board has right now, so I agree, they should ask now, get them on the table so you can address them. But and it kind of makes sense. I hear what you're saying, that she's
That's fine.
get these questions out of the way, but we don't want to violate open meetings law with that. Okay, as far as I see it, I just like to see that drawing cleaned up so it makes sense on where that pergola actually is, because that drawing isn't making sense to me.
I will get on the
We'll do
phone.
All right,
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to have brought it up, but I totally agree with Mike on this.
It's okay. We'll make sure we work within the guidelines and get you what you need.
all right, let's just check real quick. Donna, any questions other than the getting that drawing cleaned up?
None, thank you.
Sarah, any other questions?
Nope.
You're good, Fred?
No,
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Linda, for your patience.
Thanks,
All right,
thanks. I'm
thank you.
Good, thanks.
gonna call him now.
Mike's still on. Be careful.
Bear with me, Paul, just making a note.
Sure, take your time.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, Paul. All right. Your sign. You've given us some ideas of what it would look like with I think the request in 91 and change, and then 60, and then 34 as if you went right to the code. And I don't know if it was the follow-up or a subsequent note that I saw that there was some discussion about, well, you can't see it from the right of way. It's not legible. I want to make it clear.
You broke up there a little bit, Mike, but
Okay. So there were some, I think some presentation that you made that if it was per code at 34 feet, the 34 square feet, that you could not see it. It wasn't legible from the right of way. That isn't an element of the code. And I know where to fit that in the criteria. So I understand, but I don't think that really is viable to it. think we have to go to the criteria, and I think you know the criteria. I can go through it if you want, but it needs to fit into the criteria on why it is that whether it be 91 feet or 6 feet or anything above 34 feet.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and just to recap, Emily Chen is joining me also. She's the tenant, and we're happy to announce that she has moved into the new space as of last Friday.
Congratulations.
So she's now operating in the new location. When we spoke last month, we had, as you identified, the request was for a sign, business identification sign in excess of what's allowed, and the request was for 90 square feet. And it wasn't so much, legibility as at the time we were really discussing trying to make it proportional to the facade. And I was talking kind of abstract about facade renovations that were forthcoming. So the exhibits that we submitted that you're in receipt of now show the proposed facade renovations. I will be before the planning board for architectural review next week. And we rendered the sign into those elevations. And we heard loud and clear the board's concern relative to the size that we originally requested. We still feel very strongly that 34 square feet is going to be a little bit difficult from a legibility standpoint as it relates to the size of the font and the letters. Given that her copy is on 2 lines, the font gets fairly small, and the placement of that sign is now shown on the new facade so that you can see it in proportion to not only the tenant space that Emily will be occupying, but also comparative to the other signs that are affixed to the facade. And we have rescinded that request for 90 square feet, and now the request is now, we call it the 60 square foot proposal, but it's actually slightly less. I think on the exhibit, it shows exactly, I think it's like 57 square feet and change if I'm not mistaken. And the copy is with, on the main font, 20-inch letters, and on the secondary font, 16 and a tenth for the copy size. So hopefully, that gives you a little bit of an idea of what the sign would look like. We really feel that the size of the element that we're creating on the front of the revised facade renovations, the smaller sign would really get lost and kind of almost be dwarfed in that sign field. So we are trying to have it be aesthetically pleasing, proportionate to not only the space that she's occupying, but also that element. And when we look at the criteria, we try to say, is it going to create a detriment? And the belief is no. Is there any hazard created? No. We're talking about a sign and trying to convey clear information to passersby at a speed limit of, posted speed limit of 50 on Route 96. We know the challenge for any business owner is having their business identified, and we just want to help Emily achieve that in this instance.
So Paul, let me ask you for so I got these dimensions right. Is it fair to say then the area of where the proposed sign is going to go, can we call it an A-frame?
Yep.
All right. So from vertical post to vertical post of that A-frame, I thought I saw a diagram someplace that's 31 feet in width.
That's that's correct. On the previous exhibit that I sent in, Mike, that was 31 feet is between those posts.
Okay. And if I'm looking at the elevation where it's a 60 square feet option, I see that in between those 2 vertical posts, there's a double door off to the left a little bit and to the right, there are two windows. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, what I want to try and sort out is how many tenants can go in there?
So the only one, Emily will occupy from the windows just to the left, or just on the inside of that left post. Her new demising wall is just at that window edge on the inside of the left post. And then she goes over all the way to the other side of the post. So she's actually 34 square feet of frontage is what she occupies, the width of her tenant space. So proportionally, I think those between those two posts is about the same as the width of her space.
So those double doors, that isn't.
That's not a shared vestibule. That goes 100% into Emily's space.
All right. One concern I would have is like, well, if I'm sure you can carve that up any which way you please.
Right.
Because on one argument potentially, it's like, well, if that from vertical post to vertical post, if that's always going to be one tenant, I think an argument could be made. It says, well, then that tenant should have a sign that's at or about the width of their tenancy.
Sure.
But if you carve that in half, then there could potentially be another request to say, well, we want another sign and we want it just as big, and now you got two 60-foot square foot signs in a small space, and then it gets jammed up in there.
Yeah. She's going to be the only tenant that would be occupying space, directly proper behind that element. Her space goes a little bit to the right of the right column, and just inside that left column, the only vacancy we have right now would be the tenant just to the left of her. And they have a shared vestibule right now for access with Enterprise. And if we demise that into more than one tenant, we would have to do a new storefront entry, likely in one of those windows that you see under where it says tenant.
And I don't speak for the whole board, I'm just putting an idea out there, that would you be open to the idea that should the variance be granted, that as a condition, that space is not further divided? So it is to eliminate the possibility of another tenant going into I don't care, a 10-foot, a 15-foot front as opposed to a 31-foot front.
I'd rather have the variance go with the actual tenant, because given the life cycle of a plaza, I don't know who may come in there, and if they're going to occupy that. Likelihood is yes, that they would take the space as demise, but I mean, we see a lot of different tenant sizes come in, and I just need to preserve flexibility. If I had something that locked me into that, couldn't be future demised in any capacity, that would really be difficult.
But you'd rather see a sunset provision for this particular tenant?
Yeah. I would rather see the variance go with the tenant.
Okay, well, let's hold that thought. All right. Donna, any questions?
Can you bring up the picture again? Was that the new facade that you first showed? With the size of the sign? Is that the new facade you're talking about?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the largest one. That's the 90 square foot one that is rendered in there on that one, Donna.
Okay. Is there one in here that has the 60 square foot or no?
Yep, Kim should be able to bring that up. There it is, 57.55.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's the only question I had.
Paul, what's up there now? There's a temporary sign that's,
Yeah.
I drove there day before yesterday.
Yep, there's a temp banner right now that was put up just so that she could identify her new location. And the Fisher's Landing sign that's there is going to come down. We don't know if we want to put that exact sign back up or do something a little bit more, modern to complement the new architecture. But for now, I just rendered in the existing Fisher's
You know what the
Landing.
font is there?
Pardon me?
The font that's on the temporary sign.
I do not know what that font is. Emily, do you know offhand what they used for that?
The font size or the font name?
The font size. Do you know what size letters was Ewing Graphics did for the temp banner?
I'm trying to look it up in my emails. I'm not sure.
Well, it's gonna be coming down anyway, probably.
It's just
Just-
to identify where we are because we moved, so we want to make sure they can find us.
I understand that. Just for comparison, is I was able to see that font. It was as I was on 96.
Mhm.
And I know part of it is like, well, and we've gone through this before. It's well, you want to be able to identify your business, but it doesn't mean that you get letters that are 2-3 sizes times the size of what the code requires. We can't rewrite the code.
Sure.
Sarah, have any questions?
I guess, I don't know if my question would be for Mike or for Al. Do any of the signs that are currently on that building have, or did they need variances, or do they all meet code the way they are now?
I can't swear to it, but I don't have that information in front of me, but I would tend to believe that most of them are fairly accurate. And
So then my concern would be if we granted a variance for a sign bigger than code, what prevents the other tenants from asking for the same thing? And then we would be setting a precedent. So those are the comments I have at this point.
All right. So to answer that question, as much as I'd like to say that there is no precedent set, it is a case-by-case basis. Each application is unique in and of itself, but it does go to an argument to say, well, it's how does it change the character of the neighborhood? So to your point, if some signage is permitted to be larger, in that instance, well, if you go 2 or 3 tenants down, how is it not changing the character of the neighborhood when it was just, if you will, 60, 80 feet down the road? It shouldn't change the character of the neighborhood 80 feet, for either way. I don't know if I explained that right. So it's a thought, it's an argument, it's a concern. And as I look at go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I saw her sign actually today where she used to be because I had a dentist appointment. So the sign that she used to have had a white background. So that sign is a normal size sign. You could read it because of the white behind it. So she's been able to grow her business from its current location to expand to the location she is now, meeting code with that sign. I mean, I'm a female who goes to a specific place to get her hair done and her nails done. And I can be very honest to tell you, I'm not even sure if the places I go to have signs and where they're located. So I feel I just have concerns with granting almost double the size that's allowed by code. So that's it. That's all I have.
No, I agree with you. I think we had talked before about how do your clients find you, Emily, and I think it's mostly by appointment. They know where you are. They're really not looking for signage. And I know there's an argument to be made to say, well, for new customers, driving by, they see a sign and they say, oh, gee, Brooks and Harlow, I'm gonna look them up and I'm gonna give them a try. And right, there's some, because Paul, I think hopefully you've read it. And it's no secret. The county planning board, especially up and down that corridor, is very protective of over signage. And And they're considering that, again, no surprise, that the proposed sign is excessive. I think they looked at it, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, at the 91 square feet. And they didn't see the 60, but
That's
I
correct.
don't-
They saw the original request.
that's right. I don't know if they would have thought anything different.
I don't think they
at
would have.
60 feet.
They pretty much wholesale would always deny sign variances.
Right, so if you would have, even the code says 34 feet in this instance, if you would ask for 40, it probably would have been, it's excessive signage and denied it, which then requires the board for a majority +1, supermajority. Fred, questions?
Well, I'm kind of in favor of the applicant on this. I think the smaller size sign would look funny. It's a big area. And I think the concept of them coming down 30 square feet, we could go up 30 square feet and let it ride with a tenant. And I don't see a big problem down the line because there aren't very many places that have such a big area to cover.
On that note, I think it's not really the facade that's driving this. If I understood you, Fred, correctly, it's because if the facade was bigger, an argument could be made that says, well, then why can't the lettering be bigger? Well, it has to do with the storefront. That's what the code requires and dictates, and you can't rewrite the code because just the facade is bigger. It's not an element of it. So if I hear you correctly, Fred, that you would be more likely to grant the variance at 57.55 square feet.
I would,
Okay.
yes.
Donna, what do you think on the proposal of 55.55 square feet?
I'm in agreement with it.
You'd be in Fred's camp?
Yep.
Sarah, what do you think?
I would be opposed to granting the bigger sign.
Okay. Well, I think you're moving in the right direction. I don't know, and I know, Emily, you got your sign up your own for business, and business is a good thing. I think, Paul, were you here at the beginning of the meeting?
I was.
Okay, so Matt is necessarily absent. So with 4 of us, you would need all 4 votes to get this granted. 1 would be a denial. So it almost would start being the more likely than not. We can certainly go through the criteria. I could give you the option. I can't speak for Matt. I can certainly let Matt know that what has transpired. If you want to push it to the 19th, you may have a better chance of getting the variance granted if you want to go that way, or we can take a vote today and you may not like the answer that you got.
I appreciate the opportunity. I would like to request just a table so that we could have the benefit of the full board. And we know that we're in for planning board review, architectural review next week. I don't anticipate a lot of changes with architectural review, but there could be some comments from the planning board that also give some bearing on how this could look relative to that area. As Fred, accurately mentioned, it really is trying to get something proportional to that sign field. That's really where Emily and I, originally started looking at saying something in excess of what is allowed by code is really necessary here. So it balances itself out. So I would like to request a table. It sounds like you guys are meeting again on the 19th.
Correct.
And we'd be happy to come back at that meeting if that's acceptable.
If we could, Al, could I ask you to do a little research for that plaza, if any of those current tenants needed a variance for their signage?
Can I ask you a question too, when you're done?
Hold on. I need to hear from Al first.
Yes, I can do that.
And if, and I maybe then the next also would be if they are code compliant.
Yes, I can do that.
Great, thanks so much. Donna, go ahead.
Also, when you drive by that plaza, that elevation is way lower, so the sign is down in there, so it's not like you're driving by on 96 and seeing everything else that you're seeing. Like the places across the street are all street level. That plaza is down in there, so does that make any difference as far as size-wise when you're looking at it? No.
I invite you to drive by there. The temporary sign is up. And I
I
think
looked at
where
it.
that,
I looked
and
at
you
it.
can see it. You can see it from 96, but I don't know is what the font is.
Okay.
And we
So
can,
I-
we can provide that information to Kim. We'll get the graphics from Ewing Graphics, so you have something comparative to understand, you know, how large the font is on that temporary banner.
Good move.
Great. Anyone have any other questions for Paul? Okay, looks like we're all good.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the 19th.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
Sorry, Al, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's okay. We're all good here. Okay.
No
Okay.
problem.
Oh, Jenny, you moved. Oh, there you are. Zoom, where the squares move on me. Okay, so your application for a quick bill for a shed, a 10 by 12 shed. And there's the property. This would be on the north side of the,
Yes,
this is the north side of the property, right?
right.
Okay. And I think you heard earlier on, we can take some facts and information and your presentation, but it's got to go to the county planning board for their recommendations. And I read, I think it was Marty's comments. Did you have a chance to look at that, Jenny? Or I can run through them kind of quick if you like.
Why don't you remind me what those comments are?
That there was a 2013 variance granted with a reduced setback. But the bigger piece that looked like it was a concern was the reduction of open space from 35% to 29%. And then putting a 120 square foot shed would further reduce the open space. Also that the shed appears to be closer to the street than the principal structure, and that commercial buildings require a sprinkler system. So I think those concerns not necessarily need to be addressed today, but they do need to be addressed eventually. So if you'd like to make your presentation and fill in the gaps, we'd love to hear it.
Okay, well, we would like to put a storage shed on the north side of the building. I mean, we definitely do not have sufficient space inside the building for storage. We will not ask for electric. We will comply with everything that the fire marshal has requested. No heat, no electric, no mulch. We'll put no smoking signs on the shed. I mean, it literally is just for storage because we are so lacking in space.
Storage of what? What do you plan on storing in there?
We are going to store, for example, our cases of cups and our brooms or shovels or case water, sellable goods, non-perishable, of course.
All right, no like gas products, lawnmowers, things like that?
No, nothing flammable at all, nothing.
How have you been solving the problem to date then, as far as your shovels and dry goods and cups and things?
With great difficulty. We've had to put shelves way up in the air to house the cases of cups, and juggle around the cases of beer and pop that are delivered. We take deliveries twice a week to eliminate the massive amount of product that we need just for a week. Our walk-in cooler is very narrow. A lot of the case beer is stored in there that it's difficult to get around.
How does
So-
it compare? How does it compare to the quick fill that's
Down the
at the
road,
Village? Yeah, that's a little further south.
they have two huge big back rooms. That building is, and I'm gonna guess more than twice the size of the building we're talking about now.
Okay. Fred, questions?
Wouldn't this be referred to as the east side of the building? How big is the shed?
10 by 12.
No, I don't have any questions. I'll save mine till the next meeting, I think.
Okay, Sarah, questions?
No questions, really, just some comments about how cramped the site is already. And now we're just going to be adding more items to that site. It's very difficult even when you're just stopping to get gas, getting in and out of there already. I feel like there's been numerous variances already. I believe there were 2 that Marty mentioned that were granted already for that site. So that's all I have at this point. It was just comments.
Okay, thank you. Donna, questions, comments?
None as of yet, thank you.
Okay.
No, the shed wouldn't cause a problem of getting in and out of the location. It's not on the driveway. It's on the side of the building in the grass area.
Right, I understand
So
that.
I don't see how that would be congested at all, because that is not even a traveled path for our customers.
Oh, I understand that. I'm saying the site itself is very cramped with the numerous things that are already there. That was just the comment that I had.
Yeah, I don't think it's any secret. It's a tough parcel. I know we looked at this very carefully, and I think it took a number of meetings to grant the variances that went along with this back in 2013. I understand the problem, the concerns about storage and keeping at least close enough to the facility where you can run your business.
Now, you mentioned
myself. My name is Jen Egger. I work for United Refining Company. I'm the permitting coordinator. And so Jenny and I have been working together to do the paperwork and try to get the application together. We did look at other scenarios here. I mean, obviously, just where the building is located, it's close to the rear and side setback lines. And obviously, it would be real cost prohibitive to put an addition on to the back of the building. So really, it's come down to this shed. And, even with the variance that we were given before with the open space, I mean, looking at that in and of itself, in order to not reduce that open space, literally, we would only have 32 square feet to work with. So, I mean, we're gonna have to reduce the open space no matter which way you look at it, just because 32 square feet is not going to really give us any storage option. And, we tried to make sure that we work with contractors that are local, they're using reputable materials, everything's aesthetically pleasing, that just the whole look of this overall shed, I have to be honest, to me, when I think of a shed, I think of like an Amish built, real rough cut, and that's definitely not what we're looking at here. And definitely, it's a good problem to have that we have so much customer traffic coming in there to need the additional storage space, but it definitely is something that would really help the business.
I understand that. I'm not disputing that your concerns and there's a potential need for it. Looking at what the code allows and requires, and I think the zoning board starts to get very concerned and sensitive to the fact that when there are multiple variances, really, and then spread out, and it's another concern, another concern, another concern as time goes on. You take the property as you found it, you improved it, it looks great, but sometimes you can't put that square peg in a round hole. There's a limit to how much you can put on a piece of property. I'm not, dumping a big cup of cold water on the thing. But what we need to also hear is what the county planning board has to say, hear their comments, since that that it's on 96. We'll have our other board member back, so we'll have a full board, and next time, and we'll review it some more and probably ask a few more questions. But I'm encouraged on the piece that you're not going to keep flammable things in there. So it doesn't necessarily eliminate all the concerns, but I think it would at least address some of them, especially on the sprinkler system piece of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I welcome, thoughts, comments, concerns. The more information we have, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to add?
I guess at this point, it's just more questions. So the next piece is to go to the county planning board, and they're going to render their comments and their questions, and then we come back to you for the final decision. Or I guess I'm just trying to make sure if there's changes that need to take place, or where that all fits into the process.
It's a little difficult to predict what they're going to say. So once they make some comments, it could be anything from, if you will, a passive comment, like suggestions, or something, I think, is if you heard at the last application, that they were recommending that the application be denied. So that then, by law, requires the zoning board to have a majority plus one, a supermajority. So I cannot predict, what they're going to comment on or what they think about it, but I can tell you they are very concerned about what the corridor looks like and the changes that are made. But I don't know how they're going to look at a shed. But the facts, I think that they have, things that we talked about it today, I think will be helpful for them to make a determination, or I should say a recommendation to us on what to do with this.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I answer the question?
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Anything else?
Did you have anything else to add?
Well, I guess now if we're coming back here on the 19th, what concerns does this board, what will you present us with so we can be paired with answers, solutions for you?
Well, I think you heard that the one concern we have is the further reduction of open space. I don't know if that's a problem that can be solved. It's like, considering that the first application, there's quite a bit of acreage in the, so where do you put the pergola? Can you put it to the north, to left, right, left, whatever the case may be? You can't do that here. There really is no alternative. It's an all or nothing, unless you build up. If you raise the roof on it and say, I don't think you're really considering doing that.
Not at this point, no.
Right. But it's what would be the viable alternatives, feasible alternatives for you. There's no more open space. That's it. You've already got a variance for limited open space. I don't know if you can do things off-site. I can't imagine that if you're, I suppose if you were to store a shovel during the winter, you could find a place for it. But if you are looking at storage, there's only so many cups and things you can keep on site. You may have to go off-site, and somebody's got to go back and forth and keep replenishing the shelves with whatever it is that the dry storage. I don't know. I don't run your business, so I don't know how cumbersome or how much of a problem that is. And also, without really trying to, I guess, outthink the county planning board, I don't know what they're going to recommend, suggest, or be concerned about. So I don't have any other concerns. I want to wait and see what the county planning board has to say. Fred, do you have any concerns or things that they can work on until the next meeting?
No,
Donna?
Did they render that they did not need a sprinkler system in there because of the square footage, or I read it earlier, but I don't remember what it said.
No, I think Marty's comments was that because it's a commercial building, it's going to require a sprinkler system. However, there could be a waiver to that if I think the fire marshal, after a review, is comfortable enough that in that instance, he would recommend a waiver, presuming that there's no flammable things in there. It was just dry goods, and then I think it would be up to us to grant the waiver to that. So it's a little premature. We would have to see what the fire marshal has to say about that.
Okay.
Right. And originally, when we submitted the application, we were trying to put electricity into it. And so with the fire marshal's comments, he came back and said that he would prefer that there not be electric in there. So at this point, we're not considering putting electric in the shed just for that reason.
Thank
good
you.
But he
reason.
did have some comments. I just have them here, but he did have some comments. He asked them further questions. They got back to him, and then his comments are in the Dropbox.
Okay. I read them, but I was like,
Great. Okay, good. All right, so the fire marshal piece is all set.
Okay.
Sarah, questions, concerns, comments?
Oh, nothing further.
Okay. Jenny, Jen, anything else you want to add before we see you in a couple of weeks?
No, I don't think so. Thank you for your feedback, though. We really appreciate it.
You're very
Yes,
welcome.
yes, thank you.
Al, anything else you want to add or touch on before we table this one?
Had some thoughts. Obviously, I didn't write the review, but I did meet on site originally with Ginny. But as far as the shed being closer to the road than the principal structure, you've already got a canopy that is already in that situation, has already given granted a variance. The other part was, yeah. Basic question is, which one do you consider the principal structure, the canopy or the convenience store? I'm thinking if the gas station wasn't there, the convenience store wouldn't be. Whereas I doubt anybody would put in a convenience store and not have the gas station. So that's my thoughts. As far as the open space, we're talking about a change of, I think it's like somewhere between 60 and 90 square feet that we're asking for.
Would be 120, Al, 10 by 12.
Yeah, but they already have you were granted them a variance for 29.2 when they did the site plan. They ended up with 29.3, so they had a little bit of extra from that. So you're only, you're asking for another 120 square feet. It's still only, I think it's 80 square feet or something like that.
Oh,
I think that's just the comments I had.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's and it's just, if I understand you correctly, it's the canopy above or on top of the pumps, and arguably that's a structure forward of the principal structure.
Correct.
So really, and the shed is not forward of the canopy, the pump canopy.
No.
So I think the biggest issue that we're dealing with here is the reduction of open space.
That would be my opinion, yes.
And we'll wait to see what the county planning board has to say about that, and then we'll go from there. All right,
And
everyone else good?
we would hear from the county planning board at the meeting of the 19th, or would we hear the results of that previous?
Kim, do you know when we expect to hear from the county on this?
You know, typically the meeting is Wednesday. A lot of times we get the comments back by Friday, but I would send them to you as soon as they came in. Could be Monday, but before our meeting, but as soon as I get them, I'll forward them to you.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Good, good. All right. Jenny and Jen, you're all set?
All right,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Good.
Have a good day.
You too. Have a good night. Okay. As promised, Donna, what did you learn from, give me a little tidbit. Come on now, come on now. What did you, give us little tidbits of what did you learn from your training session?
This one was on comprehensive plans, and we actually, as they followed through, and Victor did a very nice job on their comprehensive plan from what they showed, that how it should work and how it should go along. And other than that, in this one, that was about it that I got out of it, because I followed the comprehensive plan when they were doing it years ago to get it to work for Victor. So I guess they did a good job. So thanks, Mike. You didn't forget, did you?
No, I don't forget. And you know what? Sarah's next. So next time, I'm going to ask Sarah, what did you learn from your training session? Just a couple of sentences. Next time around, love to hear it.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Everyone else good? Questions, concerns?
I won't be here for the first May meeting. I'll be in Hawaii.
Lucky
Ooh.
you.
You can Zoom from there.
I'm not taking the computer.
We'll send you one.
We'll come
Okay.
with you.
But you'd be hard to hear me over the Hawaiian band playing.
Well, have a fun time.
You
It was
know what?
left
And I
over from last year. I wanted to go last year.
don't want to see you wearing any coconuts either, so we'll pass on that, okay?
Okay.
All right, very good. Sounds like we're all set. Thanks so much. Good meeting. Drew, you got anything for us? Anything you want to touch on?
Nope. The only question I did have, and I know that I apologize, I did not call you back a few weeks back, but I had inquired, ironically enough, I had inquired about a transition back to live meetings, and I was just looking to get your guys' thoughts on if you felt comfortable with that, if you wanted to continue to wait, or if there was a kind of a tentative date when you were thinking about transitioning back. My understanding, and I did clarify with the town supervisor, is that each committee or group has the ability to decide amongst themselves if they'll continue to do Zoom meetings or go live again, or do the blended version. So I just wanted to put that out there and kind of get some thoughts on what you guys think.
I think one of the things I would like to see is whether or not, don't we need an answer today, but if everyone is vaccinated and feels safe, if they don't, then the avenue, at least being able to Zoom, whether it be if they're not local or out of town and they can get to Zoom. So I'd at least leave that avenue open. Donna, what do you think about that? Or Fred, go ahead.
The last time this topic came up, it was kind of favorable to stay on Zoom, as I recall.
There's some things that are difficult, I think, to navigate. I think sometimes I prefer being present.
I kind of miss the drawings
Yeah.
and the maps.
But I do like the ability of, at least if need be, if you can't make the meeting for whatever reason, I don't care if you got a sniffle and you don't want to give anybody anything, or you have a computer, you still can attend the meeting without being physically present. I do
for
like
sure.
that.
I know at the town board level, we have, I think we've done that pretty successfully, where we've been back to live meetings. But I can think of one instance a few months ago where one Monday night I did call in via Zoom because I had a potential, exposure to someone who had tested positive, and I was notified of that. I ultimately tested negative, out of being cautious. I had called in via Zoom and it went very well, even though the other board members were present for a live meeting. And I know that we've also used Zoom to bring in some other folks that might even be out of state to provide privilege of the floor, for example, and give presentations. So I think that that's gone pretty well. And I think that the staff at Victor's doing a really nice job with the IT stuff, and I think they're getting a pretty good hang of it. So at this point, I think that capability is certainly doable, and it really, and I wouldn't even try to encourage you guys one way or another. I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that that was an option, and certainly it is up to the ZBA whether they would like to remain 100 online or do a blended version. It's totally up to you guys.
I think for now, to keep everybody safe, at least leave it we can revisit it every, month or 2 months and see how everybody feels about that. So if we're good for that, we'll leave it as it's just the Zoom. You okay with that, Sarah and Donna? Just leave it as is for now, and we can revisit it every now and then.
I'm fine either way.
Me too.
Okay, great. All right.
All right,
Anything
thanks,
else,
guys.
Drew?
Nope, that's it. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Good. All right then. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Awesome. Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, Sarah?
I-
Would I do it the wrong way? It's this way?
Yeah, it's that way.
Okay. All right. Motion granted. Have a good evening. Stay well, everybody.